So the whole world has gone from discussing the huge boom in NFTs over the last year, all the way down now to the huge bust that's been happening in the last month. And look, entering into a technological winter can be tough, but it's worth remembering that this has happened before and will happen again with technologies that we know and love and use every single day. So today, I want to ease your mind a little bit. Let's talk about what this NFT winter is, why it happened, how long it's going to last, and what you can do about it. My name is Trent Kennelly. I'm a Web3 marketing strategist, and this is the best place to learn about NFTs, the metaverse, Web3, and how to market it all. So if that sounds good to you and you're excited, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, comment to let me know how you're handling this downturn so far. I would love to understand how you're feeling so we can talk it through a little bit, and let's get started. Okay, so let's talk first about what this NFT winter is. Really quick, easy to understand definition. So the NFT winter is a huge drop in NFT sales that's been happening since mid-April. So it's come at around the same time as a more general crypto winter is starting to be anticipated. So Coinbase laid off around 18% of their workforce in pure anticipation of this winter. But what's more important to understand here is that this is something that can potentially last for a while. So we've already seen the drop in NFTs. We've started to see the drop in crypto. We don't know how long this is going to last. They call it a winter because it's a downturn that isn't likely to turn around like this. It could take a while to come back. Which of course begs the question, why did this happen? There isn't necessarily one answer here, but we can definitely say that this isn't unexpected. People have been sounding the alarm on an NFT winter for a while now. And it's because they know that these things tend to follow a very specific pattern called the hype cycle. The hype cycle is something that every new technology in the modern age goes through. It looks like this. After new technology is introduced, Bitcoin or VR tech or even the internet itself, you experience this huge burst of energy. People start to invest in the space and everyone starts talking about this new amazing technology, and then comes the trough of disillusionment. So this is the moment where, as the name suggests, people start to feel disillusioned and we get this huge drop. Maybe the technology didn't deliver what people expected, or maybe they simply lost confidence, or whatever. For whatever reason, the expectations reduced dramatically in this phase. And then the third step is the slope of enlightenment. So this is a steadier, more sustainable growth curve. And what you're seeing here is more and more different uses for the technology that start to come in play. And it happens over a longer period of time without that huge glut of activity. And then finally, what you see is the productivity plateau. So this is effectively the point of diminishing returns, where the technology is being squeezed for all the juice that it's worth with less and less overall benefit from moment to moment. So to clearly illustrate this, let's talk about the internet. So in the late 90s, people were becoming more and more aware of the internet, which caused a lot of people to find ways to make money with the internet, which led to a huge boom in internet business like pets.com coming into 2000. So there you go, you have that excitement point. But the growth was so fast and unsustainable that people were getting less than expected out of it, which led to that internet bubble bursting in the early 2000s. So now we have the trough of disillusionment, and most internet reliant businesses fell and went out of business during this period. So today, we now have this slope of enlightenment that's continued. We have a few giants from that era, but the vast majority of Web 2 businesses were established after the bust during that slope of enlightenment period. Now, whether the internet is in the slope of enlightenment still to this day or the productivity plateau is probably a question of how you define it. So do you consider Web 2 and Web 3 to be totally different things, or kind of a continuation of the internet more generally? Depending on how you answer that question, you might think that we've kind of hit a plateau or we have entered an entirely new technology. But you can see nonetheless how this curve has come into play. So the most important question, just bringing it back to this video, are where are NFTs in this hype cycle? NFTs have just entered the trough of disillusionment. Most people have lost confidence in the technology, which in turn is leading to lost sales and failed launches right now. Okay, so we understand that NFTs are now in the trough of disillusionment in this curve. So the question is, how long is this going to last? But before I try to answer how long it's going to last, I want to change your thought process a little bit. I don't want you to think, oh, well, this is guaranteed to go through the slope of enlightenment, and if we can just stay strong, it'll be fine. This curve doesn't just happen for no reason. There is a real risk that the technology will disappear completely in the trough of disillusionment. Now, I personally don't think that that's going to happen, to be honest with you. If we look at the history of the internet, as I talk about in this video, we can see that we've gone through kind of like the Wild West to a deeply centralized governance, and then Web3's blockchain technology offers this opportunity to decentralize and use the internet on our own terms. I will say, however, that as wonderful as art is, it's largely a proof of concept. It's shown that there can be intrinsic value in a purely digital, individually owned good, and that's probably why also we've seen such a downturn. Because even though there are things like NFT utilities that are giving some real cool flexibility to NFTs, most people are just seeing the art itself and thinking, okay, there is intrinsic value, but that's not enough to sustain it. So on to the real question that needs answering here. How long is the NFT winter going to last? And I have to respond by saying that it's anybody's guess, as unsatisfactory as that is. Because unlike with weather, where you can more or less say, winter lasts 3 months, then the spring comes, or at least you used to be able to say that, a technology winter really requires continued innovation on the part of the believers. So as of now, aside from the artwork itself, we've seen some innovation with its use. So Coachella, for instance, has lifetime access NFTs for its concerts. Glenfiddich uses NFTs to track their whiskey's provenance, etc. So these are some pretty unexpected uses of NFTs in the grand scheme of how everything has been used up to now. So as long as that continues, and as long as we continue to see innovation, we should see them grow along that slope of enlightenment. We just kind of need to see that investment from a financial and an emotional perspective. So the question then is, what do we do now? So all of that makes a lot of sense. What can we do to move forward? So there are two paths. The first is that you wait for the technology to get back into the mainstream. The second is that you develop some new ideas yourself. There are benefits and drawbacks to each approach. If you wait, you're missing out on a lot of the growth that could potentially boost your business beyond expectations. But it also drastically reduces the risk if this technology ultimately goes sideways and isn't successful. If you decide to grow with the technology, you take on the risk associated with putting time and energy into a technology that frankly might not be around in a year. But if it is around in a year, then you're on the forefront of doing some amazing things. So that said, all of that considered, we need to add one more wrinkle to this idea. You either need to understand how to write a smart contract or have the money to hire someone to do that for you. An NFT's effectiveness comes down to two things at the end of the day: how it's coded and how it's distributed. Ultimately, the distribution is just a question of what the use is. If it's part of a lifetime Coachella membership, that's one method. If it's for community building inside an NFT collection, that could be something different entirely. But the smart contract is really about coding. You're going to need to understand how to write the code to get what you want out of the NFT. Now, I don't want to sound too daunting here. You can always hire someone to do that, but you do nonetheless need to start from a basis of either the skill of being able to code this yourself or the money to pay someone to do it. So look, it's not going to be easy. For those who have staked a lot on this technology, it could take years to see the gains that we're looking for. But most of the market is starting to panic and move on to the next shiny object, which might mean that this is the perfect time to get in and start establishing your place in NFTs for yourself and your business. So I hope that this was helpful for you. Let me know how you're feeling about this NFT winter. It can be scary, but we're going to get through it together. I'm going to keep talking about this stuff. Otherwise, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, and I will catch you in the next one.